So here's some homework. I want you to write this down based on what we talked about today. In the next 24 hours, so to 4/12, on the 17th of February, I want you to reread your application and goal statement. I want you to refer back to the SMART process for goal setting, then reread your application and goal statement. And then with the SMART objectives in mind, I want you to rewrite your goal statement. And Dr. Burkhammer, I believe once we're done with this session, we can upload, where you can upload this onto our Google Meet, and you guys can reference these slides to go back for your homework.
Yes, sir. We will get these slides. I'll email these slides out, and I'll also get everybody your original application in case you didn't have that after you turned it in.
Now, why do you think I'm asking you to do this, gang? Justice? And then Kevin, I saw your hands come up.
Well, because it gives us a focus to, I mean, obviously all of us have goals, but to make them SMART just gives us the opportunity to, well, actually like work on them, make them realistic.
Okay, good. Kevin?
I agree, but also to like establish, like for instance, the time bound to sort of like make those milestones for us to make it, and try to actually like have a reference sheet for us to expand off of as we continue working towards said goal.
Great. Thank you both. So here's the other thing, gang. I've been doing this training a long time, just in different platforms. If I go back to the commitment slide and the interested slide, and I read some of your goal statements, I think you were interested in the class. So you wrote interesting goals, but you're not really committed yet. But now that you're in the course, the cohort, and hopefully you'll take some things away, I want you to step back and say, when I spent time filling out this application, did I really think about what's important to me and what I want to accomplish in the next 90 days, and how's that going to carry me forward? That's the real reason I want you to go in and reread what you wrote, because I don't know that all of you put the time in that you should have based on my knowledge of handwriting, goal setting, and being college students in a course that maybe you were thinking that might be fun, might be interested. That's the real reason I'm asking you to do it. And hopefully that's a fair request as part of being the selected few for the Kooper Leadership Academy. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you got, in the next 24 hours, this is your commitment. You need to do that. Am I going to test you on it? No. Is Dr. Burkhammer? Probably not. Is Darlene? Nope. This is where you, as young adults, have to get serious about what you're getting ready to do. For the next 30 days, I want you to challenge yourself to manage your time differently using the time equalizer matrix. And here's what I want you to ask yourself. Are you spending focused time in quadrant 2? And what was quadrant 2? What do we call that? The deep work zone, right? Deep work. Are you committed or interested in your goal? And a lot of you put the leadership part of it. I'm happy for that. If your goal is to find a job in the next 90 days, you may need to reassess that goal. I want you to have a goal that we can really embrace and we can really talk about. So in the end of this 90 days Kooper Leadership Academy, maybe your brain and your mind is reframed about what we're trying to help you do to succeed once you leave the university. Do you have enough self-discipline? It will challenge you because it's easy to hit the snooze button. Remember that. Write that down. It's easy to hit the snooze button. Are you making excuses? Only you can answer these. And I really want you to use your KLA journal. That's why I purchased those for you all to keep with you So I think journals are very powerful. It helps write things down, helps get your thoughts around things. And so the next 24 hours, I want you to think about your goal, rewrite those goals based on the SMART objectives. And then over the next 30 days, I want you to really think about the time that how you're spending it holistically, and then also very specifically to helping you do things to help achieve the goal that you've written for yourself. Are there any questions or maybe clarification on what we want to have, what I'd like you to do in the next 24 hours and then over the next 30 days?
I guess I do have a question. Like, do you have any tips around identifying or like how to stay focused in Q2?
Well, that's a good question. So one of it is that
We don't
discipline.
get to talk about focus until the next session, Mary. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
We don't get to talk about the focus topic until a month from now.
That's right. Well, we'll prep you for that. So one is, that's right, focus is next. But to get yourselves kind of aligned to what we're thinking about in that 4 quadrant and that exercise I asked you to write down, those are the things that are keeping you unfocused. Those things that aren't necessary, right there, Dr. Burkemper, right? When you're working typically in these distractors and time wasters, if you're spending a lot of time in 3 and 4, those are the things that are getting in your way and making you unfocused towards quadrant 2. Life will get in the way, gang, and I understand quadrant run. It happens to me all the time. So today, I've got a plant in Missouri. They know I'm on vacation, but I got a phone call this morning and said, hey, we've got this issue going on. And so I had to switch, right? I was really focused on this course. I was getting ready for the session that we were going to have today, but I had to shift. That happens. But the challenge for all, Mary, it's a great question, is think about quadrant 3 and 4. And if you're spending a lot of time in there on things, that's probably keeping you unfocused in what we're trying to get accomplished. So we got about 10 minutes. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on leadership lessons of a dragonfly. So as I said, I'm a pretty avid reader. I like to try to make things simple. And people can relate, I think, to a dragonfly. So if you've not seen a dragonfly or you don't know what a dragonfly is, I have a picture here up on the screen. And flip to the next screen for me, or slide, Dr. Burkemper. So here's what I want you to really think about in this 30, 60, 90-day planning. So you've got 30 days that you're going to work on time. When we get into focus, we're going to do a similar exercise all the way up to the last 90 days of our Kooper Leadership Academy. So what I want you to think about through the eyes of a dragonfly is their vision. So as a leader, and you define your leadership, leaders have the ability to see nearly 360 degrees. Not 100%, but nearly they do. They have one blind spot that's behind them. So I use that bullet point to think you can't change the past. So once the past has occurred, learn from it, but don't let it slow you down. There's a reason on the dragonfly it's behind them, and the same as a leader, same as young adults. The past is the past. You can't change it. You can learn from it. Focus on today. Focus on today. They have multiple lenses, right? All of you come from different backgrounds. You have different ideas. And as leaders, we have to recognize that we all see things through our own lens. But as a leader, you have to recognize that there's multiple ways to see things. And by listening to others, being attentive, showing empathy, you'll be a much stronger leader for it. So vision, strategy. Think about our goal setting that we just talked about. That's your strategy for tonight, the next 24 hours, next 30 days with your time. Selective attention while ignoring background chatter. That is the essence of deep work. If you're really focused on your goals and your objectives and you're committed, then you will be very selective in who you listen to, and you'll ignore that background chatter. So maybe Kevin says, hey, I've got this great idea for the tabletop and we're going to do this. And all of a sudden people start saying, well, that's a dumb idea, or really, that's not going to work. If you're really committed, you'll find a way to break through that. That's background chatter that all of you deal with. I deal with it in my work every day. As a small campus, there's background chatter all the time. And then finally, execution, 95% success rate. As a leader, and at least a dragonfly, and why I like this is 95% of the time they have success in catching their prey. You know, that's a pretty big deal. And very rarely is a leader. 80% is pretty good. Dr. Burkemper, big baseball fan. What is the average batting? What's the batting average for a superstar baseball player?
If you're hitting 300, 330, you're considered amazing.
So that's less than 500, right? Which is considered really good. So from a baseball player perspective, you know, maybe Justin's from a tennis. How many aces do world-class tennis players hit in a match? Not a lot, right? So it's low. Is that right, Justin? Pretty low? Ace?
Probably around like 8 to 10 out of like 100 serves or something.
Yeah, so pretty low percent. So my only point is, gang, is we don't need to shoot for the stars, but we do want to execute well and try to hit a high success rate. And this is all about your goals. Endurance, don't give up. Do not give up on your goals, but be realistic about them. And you have to be agile. You know, there may be times you have to flex, like Alicia was saying, that, you know, maybe she can't get a full workout in, but she's going to execute. She's going to get in and find a way to exercise. She's going to find a way, but it may not be exactly what she wanted to do that day, but she was agile enough to make an adjustment to still assure that her goal was going to be set. Tim, great example. Working full-time job, going to get his education, celebrating 27 years of marriage, has a son in college. He's like, man, I got to get through this, but there may be a day that comes up and says, man, I'm wore out, but you know what? There's no option. I'm going to make this happen. I may have to flex a little bit, got to be agile, but I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Okay. And Dr. Burkham, I think that is the last slide. Oh, one more. Sorry. So Jim Rohn, he's passed away. A lot of these folks you probably not have heard of. I'm sure Michael Phelps you have, but Jim Rohn was a very good speaker, motivation teacher, and he has what I think is a very good quote on goals. There's no telling what you can do when you get inspired by your goals. There's no telling what you can do when you believe in them, and there's no telling what will happen when you act upon them. So think about your goal setting activity, homework that I asked you to do. Reference this quote by Jim Rohn, and there's no telling what will happen when you act upon them. All right, Dr. Burkemper.
Excellent. I think with our last few minutes here, it's always great to give some feedback to our guests. So I'd like at least 3 of you to jump in here and share what was a top takeaway you had from today's workshop with Gary. And no need to raise hand, just jump in if we're not talking over each other. I think I saw Julie, then Alicia.
Okay, so one of the major things that I took away was I normally, compare myself to people around me. I have a very bad habit of doing that. And so hearing that I don't have to do that, I only need to focus on myself, that really made me feel better in my goals and who I am as a leader, not just a leader, but also as a person. So that definitely boosted my self-esteem and my confidence. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
My biggest takeaway was pretty much everything you talked about with time, because I've been trying to make myself get up earlier for like the last week, just at least an hour and a half earlier, and be productive starting from when I wake up. But that's been a little bit of a struggle because it takes me a while to wake up. So probably waking up earlier and just getting to it is my biggest takeaway.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Britt.
I'm sorry. So for me, the biggest takeaway is basically the same as Alicia said with time. So I've been trying to be more productive lately because I spend a lot of time doing homework, but not doing my homework. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is actually doing something and getting the most out of my day. So yeah, thank you for that.
You're very welcome, both of you.
I think I see Guillermo with a hand raised.
Well, for me, it's also all we have been talking about the time, but particularly I got what you said about that the time is the same for all of us. Doesn't matter if you're LeBron James, Leo Messi, yourself, or myself. Like we all have the same time in a day, and we have to take advantage of it. And it was like, of course, it's obvious, but I didn't even think about that in my whole life. So interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Justice.
What I thought was especially interesting was the short exercise where we had the how many hours do we have in a day kind of exercise, just to be aware of how much time we're actually wasting. And I wasn't really aware of that. And I looked at it and I watched Netflix last night for 3 hours. I could have done whatever in that hours. So
yeah, powerful, Justice, powerful.
Like working on that Enactus to-do list that you got. All right. Thank you for telling me about Netflix. I got two more here. Let's go to Tim and Kelsey.
One of the things that I really, really love what you said was you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I had to search myself because I do not like being uncomfortable. When I get uncomfortable, sometimes it causes me to draw back and want to second guess things. So I appreciate that.
Good, Tim. Thank you for that feedback.
The one thing I really liked was when we were talking about goals, you were saying not to set easy goals, like they should challenge you, which I should start doing because each week I set goals. I'm like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, but I just kind of do it so that way I can say like, oh, I accomplished my goals this week, but they're not really like hard goals.
Mm-hmm.